Thank you, Megan. Admiral Paul Zunkampf, our Unified Area Commander, gave an operational brief in New Orleans today, so I'm going to focus on the well integrity test and take questions regarding that. As you know, we are significantly far into the well integrity test. Let me review how we were going to evaluate that test as a baseline, and I'll give you a status on where we're at. We had taken and broken down the hours of the test into 6 hours, 24 hours, and 48 hours. And the thresholds we were looking at is whether or not we achieved certain pressure thresholds. We knew that within the first 6 hours, if we did not get materially above 5,000 psi, that would indicate a high likelihood of damage in the wellbore at some place. Moving up, if we were somewhere above 6,000, but below 7,500 in the first 24 hours, that would tell us that there was probably some ambiguity regarding the amount of flow or whether or not there was some kind of a leak in the wellhead. And finally, if we were to achieve 7,500 or above, that would tell us that there was high integrity and low potential for any loss of flow out of the wellhead. Where we're at right now is we've been able to achieve just a little over 6,700 psi. It has followed the buildup and then leveling out of pressure that you would expect from a well once you tried to shut it in. The discussions we have had with industry, and they've been extensive over the last 24 hours, is interpreting the pressure at approximately 6,700 psi. There have been a couple of different scenarios posed. One of them could be the pressure is lower because we have depleted the reservoir based on the amount of oil that's been produced and released into the environment. Alternatively, it could mean that there was a loss of product someplace in the well itself because of well integrity. And there are plausible supporting arguments for both of those. We have looked very, very closely at the data over the last 24 hours, and we are moving ahead in 6-hour increments so that we can judge the data that we have and then make decisions on moving forward. We have had 2 seismic runs over the area, but they've been single runs. This is like a single line that cuts through the center of the earth that gives us basically a 2D cross-section picture. That has detected no anomalies. That is good, but it is not a comprehensive seismic survey, similar to the one that was done before the well was begun, and similar to what we would like to have done, which was done on the 26th of April, which were multiple lines crossing the well. We have decided to move forward in another 6-hour increment, moving forward from now, actually from when the meeting was held, so that would be ending later on this evening. And we're looking for 4 things, and I've been in contact with BP regarding our requirements. To continue to leave the well shut in at the pressure that it's at, we would like enhanced monitoring. That includes inspection of the seafloor, acoustical sensing in and around the wellhead to make sure that if there's any leakage that we are capable of detecting it. We've asked for additional seismic runs that would give us a better cross-section to understand whether or not there are any anomalies down in the formation that could be resulting from oil leaving the wellbore. There's a condition that we would have no anomalies noted during that time. And finally, we have a NOAA vessel that's in the area that has a sensor on board that's capable of using acoustics to detect very small bubbles of methane gas, which would be an indicator that there might be leakage from the well floor. So we have asked BP to go forward during the next 6 hours and initiate another seismic run, continue their enhanced monitoring. We need to make sure there are no anomalies on the seafloor, and we're going to need to bring the NOAA vessel in. There's a little bit of deconfliction we're going to have to do regarding the frequencies that their acoustical sensors operate on, because we have other acoustical sensors operating in the area. This gets back to what I've talked before about simultaneous operations and the need to understand how they interact. So we will look to get a frequency that the NOAA ship can use and look for them to give us some information regarding the presence of methane as we move forward. So in general, as the President noted earlier today, this is generally good news. I think we're to a point where there's enough uncertainty regarding what the meaning of the pressure is that we're seeing that we need to have due diligence moving forward. I mean, you need to be careful not to do any harm or create a situation that cannot be reversed. So we've been in intense conversations with BP, including all of the scientific team from the U.S. government led by Deputy Secretary Stephen Chu and his team. We will continue to do that over the course of this evening. So the course of action that we have taken thus far and that I've directed as a National Incident Commander is to continue to closely monitor, continue to do testing, look for any deviations in the pressure readings that would cause us to believe that there might be a further breach, or if there is a breach in the wellbore, and then continue to do enhanced monitoring, additional seismic runs to look for anomalies, and to use the NOAA platform to help us detect whether or not there's a presence of methane gas, which would indicate the potential of hydrocarbons coming off the seafloor. And with that, I'd be glad to take questions.
And your first question comes from the line of Harry Weber with the Associated Press.
Thank you. Admiral Allen, you indicated at the top that if after 24 hours, which we're at, you had PSI readings of above 6,000 but below 7,500, that probably meant there was some ambiguity regarding the amount, whether there was a leak or some other issue, and you just indicated that you're still at 6,700, which is in between those, and we're at 24 hours. So are you saying that there's ambiguity in the results and that there could be a leak somewhere in the wellhead?
No, what I said is the results are the pressure is at 6,700 and slowly rising. I would say anywhere from 2 to 10 pounds per hour. So it's still slightly up on an upgrade, which is consistent with a well that's shut in that has integrity. It's the overall level of the pressure that's being debated, and we're trying to resolve whether or not, since the pressure is not up around 7,500, is that lower pressure to begin with a result that the reservoir was depleted and therefore we would expect less pressure, or is the lower pressure the result of there's been an ongoing way for oil to leave the wellbore through a leak? We don't know, because we don't know the exact condition of the wellbore. So the discussion is centered around why it is at 6,700 and going up slowly as the point where it settled out. Is that responsive?
So you're saying it could either be, at this point, depletion of the reservoir, or it could be a leak.
But we're trying to exhaust that possibility. There's a very good chance that depletion could have done it, but we don't know it to a virtual certainty, so we're doing extra seismic testing, and we're also doing visual inspections around the wellbore itself, and we're going to be doing acoustic monitoring and checking for anomalies. In other words, we're looking, now that the well is shut in and we know there is increased pressure at the top of the well, we're looking for indications that would lead us to believe there might be leakage. That's a prudent thing to do while we go ahead and have the discussions regarding the analysis of the pressure readings we have and whether or not they could be related to reservoir depletion. Does that make more sense?
Yes, sir. If I could just follow up just briefly on the point you just made. So you're giving them permission to go forward for another 6 hours. Are you saying that after that 6 hours is up, you'll reevaluate and you could end the test at that time?
There'll be a continued reevaluation as we go through this, and there'll be conditions on the next period of time. The conditions on going forward right now have been enhanced monitoring with ROVs and other sensors, enhanced seismic runs, that there are noted anomalies that are detected, and then we move the NOAA ship in, and we actually get acoustic sensing for the presence of methane gas. We will evaluate that over the next few hours, and we'll go through a series of meetings where we're going to take one step at a time. Are we comfortable? Do we understand what we've seen? What does it mean? And are we comfortable moving ahead in another increment of 6 hours? That was the original intent of the test plan. We're moving slightly beyond the 24 hours for the pressure gradient that we talked about, because there's reason to believe that we might have good pressure readings, but we need to discount the fact that we could have a low probability, high consequence outcome in a leak, and we want to make sure that we do no harm.
Thank you.
Your next question comes from Vivian Koo with the CNN.
Hi there. How would one determine that it's reservoir depletion versus a straight-up breach? And would you possibly extend this 48-hour testing period? In the beginning, we've talked about how that might go longer.
Well, to answer your second question first, I think everything moving forward now will be condition-based. What it is we know, what we see, and how we interpret that. And in fact, you've centered in on the discussion that's been very critical over the last 24 hours, and that's what are the best ways that we can measure well depletion.